This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Victims' bodies of Semafo mine attack in Burkina Faso released to relatives. Chinese president leaves for first state visit to Greece in 11 years. And signatories to the South Sudan peace agreement meet in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. This is CGTN. Welcome to Africa Live from Nairobi with me, Beatrice Marshall. Also coming up on the program. Zimbabwe bans livestock imports from South Africa to prevent the spread of foot and mouth disease. And the Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations gets underway in Cairo as 8 African teams chase 2020 Olympic tickets. Let's start in Burkina Faso, where the bodies of the victims of the mining convoy attack have been released. The bodies have been released to relatives of the victims. An estimated 38 Semafo workers were killed after gunmen ambushed their convoy. 29 of the bodies were formally identified on Friday. Semafo had tightened security at 2 of its mines last year following armed attacks. The company as Burkina Faso continues to fight against militant groups in parts of the country. CGTN's Daniela Pearson takes a deeper look into the attack on the Canadian gold mining company.
Sources say that about 250 workers travel under armed military escort each week to its Bungu mine located in the eastern part of the country.
We know for now there are 38 dead and 63 wounded, some lightly, others seriously. Those are the figures we have for the moment. Our troops are on the ground because some people are missing. Some of them are miners. In any case, we are still searching for mine workers.
Public officials say that the government has opened an investigation into the attack.
We have come here, first of all, in the name of His Excellency, the President of Burkina Faso, to see the site alongside the authorities and pass on our encouragement, and also take stock of what happened and pass our solidarity on to the wounded here.
Operations at the mine have been suspended since the incident, which occurred on a public road between the market town of Fada and the Bungu mine. But many families are still waiting for news. It's not clear exactly how many were in the convoy, what their nationalities were, or how many are still missing. Daniela Pearson, CGTN.
In Mali, hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets to call for increased cooperation with French forces against terrorism. CGTN's Jen Keo reports.
The attack in Indelimane, Menaka region on November the 1st started with shellfire from heavily armed and unidentified men. Later, the Islamic State claimed responsibility for the hit via its Amaq news agency. Mali has been in turmoil since Tuareg separatists and allied jihadists took control of more than half the country in a rebellion in 2012. The following year, French forces intervened to drive back the fighters. Some 4,000 troops are operating in the country.
We are here in the streets to give our support to the army. Our soldiers are dying in the fields, and no one wants that. France needs to tell the truth. They say they came to help us, so they need to do that, or they go and we will do it ourselves. We have the United Nations Multidimensional Integration Stabilization Mission in Mali, the Barkhane anti-insurgent operation, but the killing keeps on happening. France needs to be clear and transparent towards the people of Mali. And also, our authorities need to equip our men in the field. The warplanes need to fly, otherwise the enemy will win.
A 2015 peace deal signed by Mali's government and separatist groups has failed to end the violence. Islamists have also staged assaults on high-profile targets in the capital, Bamako, and in neighboring Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast.
France needs to know that Mali also has interests. Friendship has to be transparent. It needs to help us defeat terrorism so that Mali can be free.
The UN Security Council has also deployed peacekeepers into Mali to assist in political process and security operations. However, since 2013, nearly 200 peacekeepers have been killed, making MINUSMA the deadliest UN mission in the world. Jane Keo, CGTN.
To Cameroon now, and the country has paid tribute to the 43 people who perished during a landslide in the western city of Bafoussam. According to local media, 26 children were among the recovered bodies. Local authorities say that the residents had built homes on unsafe ground despite government warnings. This is not the first landslide to rock the country. In July of last year, 5 people died in a similar incident. The latest landslide was caused by torrential rains in the West African state.
When I arrived in Gouache, I saw the square was in poor condition. The population could no longer even live there. Oh, it hurts me, because there was only 2 of us, me and my little one. I'm alone today. It hurts. The whole family is devastated.
I can only say the situation is really deplorable, because for a disaster like this, they're not taking care of us. They're not giving money to help families. That is terrible. No one is even visiting the families concerned, when I thought the head of state had deployed resources. But the minister came, but well, they only go to the offices to hold meetings. They don't visit the families.
My daughter died with her husband and all her children. To this day, I've not slept. I still have insomnia.
President Xi Jinping is leaving Beijing for the first state visit by a Chinese leader to Greece in more than a decade. President Xi will arrive in the capital Athens today. He is scheduled to meet the country's president and the Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis over the following few days. President Xi will then head to Brazil for this year's BRICS summit, a meeting for the leaders of the 5 major emerging national economies: Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. He will also attend the closing ceremony of the BRICS Business Forum. Ahead of his trip, President Xi has had an article published in the Greek daily newspaper Kathimerini. The Chinese leader said while the 2 countries established diplomatic ties in 1972, their cultural exchanges date back 2,000 years. He added that since they founded their comprehensive strategic partnership in 2006, they have adhered to a policy of mutual respect and trust, a win-win cooperation and mutual learning. President Xi said he hoped his visit would bring new opportunities for their bilateral relations while enhancing practical cooperation in various fields. The Chinese president called on the 2 sides to step up efforts in implementing the Belt and Road Initiative, build a new type of international relations based on mutual respect, fairness and justice, and win-win cooperation while building a community with a shared future for mankind. Now, trade is expected to top the agenda of President Xi's trip to Greece as the European country is facing challenges in its economic growth and raising its employment rate. CGTN's Nawi Jabakil reports from Athens.
Athens. Few cities in the world are steeped in as much history as the Greek capital. But today, this is a fragile place that's slowly emerging from one of the worst economic crises in recent memory. Now it's preparing for the visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping as the 2 countries look to boost their rapidly growing ties.
China invested in Greece in the course of the past 10 years when many other countries, companies, would not touch Greece. It was toxic politically, the crisis, and China was there. They invested in Greek bonds, they invested in the harbor, and they made it clear we're here, not as speculators, as a strategic long-term investment.
According to Chinese government figures, trade between the 2 countries was worth more than $7 billion last year. Business will be high on the agenda during President Xi's visit. Greek officials say billions of dollars worth of deals are set to be signed in a number of areas, including shipping, finance and energy. Greece was one of the first European Union countries to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, with the Piraeus port in Athens now a flagship project of the BRI. The Greek government recently approved another $670 million of investment in the port by shipping giant COSCO. Greece's Deputy Foreign Minister has just returned from Shanghai, where he was part of a high-level delegation looking to secure more investment.
There is a tremendous demand for foreign direct investment in Greece. As you probably may know, there is a momentum in the Greek economy at this point in time. There is political stability with a new government, there is economic growth, there is a social coherence in as far as foreign direct investment is concerned.
But Greece faces real challenges. The government predicts public debts will reach almost 175% of GDP this year, and unemployment is at 17%, the highest level in the European Union. After years of dealing with a debt crisis and international bailouts, economic growth is picking up once again. Officials here predict growth of 2% this year, rising to almost 3% in 2020. As Greece looks to continue its economic recovery, China's becoming an increasingly important partner. The two countries share rich histories, and here on the streets of the capital, public sentiment ahead of the trip is largely positive. This will be the first state visit by a Chinese president to Greece in 11 years, and its impact could be felt here for many years to come. Noiji Barkil, CGTN, Athens.
Japanese Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako have taken part in a parade to celebrate the emperor's formal ascension in Tokyo. The parade lasted for about half an hour, and the imperial couple drove over 4 kilometers through central Tokyo. The younger brother of the emperor, Crown Prince Fumihito, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe were also in the motorcade. Thousands of people gathered to watch the rare open-top car procession. The route was chosen for visibility and security reasons. The parade was postponed from the original October date due to Typhoon Hagibis.
Images may appear to be identical, but looks can be deceiving. The difference is not always obvious. It has to be discovered. There are always different sides to a story. We put the focus on the details. To see more, to understand better. CGTN. See the difference.
Signatories to the South Sudan peace agreement are meeting in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. They are discussing the new extension for the formation of their transitional government of national unity. Earlier, South Sudan's President Salva Kiir and opposition leader Riek Machar, at a meeting in Uganda, agreed to extend the new government by 100 days. Coletta Wanjohi reports from Addis Ababa.
The decision to miss 12th November deadline for a transitional government in South Sudan was done by President Salva Kiir and opposition leader Riek Machar. Other parties to the South Sudan peace agreement were absent.
If the two leaders, the SPLM-IO leader and President Kiir, agreed on 100 days, we welcome that and we are okay with that. But what we need to know is the details of why that 100 day will solve the outstanding issues that we didn't get to do in 8 months and in 6 months.
The parties argue that security arrangements for the new government remain wanting.
If you see forces in the cantonment sites for the opposition, then the cantonment sites, they don't have services. Social services are not that. They don't have health services. They don't have food. Some of them are dying. But if you see the government troops in the barracks, some of them are enjoying, are really eating good food. So there's discrimination in the way how you treat soldiers in this process of cantoning them from one side, barracking them from one side, to process out of them national army. So that element of discrimination needs to be stopped. And that may likely also take us back to violence.
The factions are yet to agree on how many regional states South Sudan should have. They also say a promise by the government to fund the peace process to a tune of $100 million is yet to be realized.
As you are aware that South Sudan is one of the oil-producing states, and since the crisis broke in 2013, you have never heard of anything the government saying the production of oil is decreasing. Always the government say the production of oil is increasing. That means the revenue from the oil is increasing. So before we tell the world that we don't have money for peace implementation, the question is, where is the money that we generate from the revenue of the oil?
Opposition leader Riek Machar has argued that he doesn't feel safe to return to Juba. In addition, sanctions imposed on him by IGAD are yet to be lifted. The government says it is ready to compromise for the sake of achieving lasting peace. Ministers of Foreign Affairs from the region will meet on Sunday to discuss the outcome of this technical meeting. After that, they will give guidelines on how the outstanding issues will be resolved to assist South Sudan form a transitional government within 100 days. In the meantime, the impacts of delaying a return to stability in South Sudan continues to glare at these leaders. The UN humanitarian agency says over 1 million of their citizens remain as refugees and 1.5 million others internally displaced. Coleton Johi, CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
In South Sudan, peacekeepers stationed in the country are doing more than just protecting civilians. They are building schools and preventing girls from being married off young. Let's take a look.
The celebrations mark the opening of a new school built by peacekeepers from the United Nations missions in South Sudan. The students here initially studied under trees.
That one is finished, and then all the students are coming here to study their education. Then they are very happy because to get the new concrete here.
When the rains would come, the children had to run away from the tree to the old classroom because part of the classroom was already broken. We worried that it could fall on the children.
The 3-classroom block is one of the peacekeeping mission's quick impact projects. It's expected to make a substantial contribution to the welfare of local communities.
We even found a lot of girls, teaching each other. Those who were in higher classes were teaching lower classes. And in discussion with parents, they say that they realize that when the girl child stays in school, then at least, the chances of being married off as very young were reduced, because then she'll have more time in school and keep her away from being married early. And also, they said if they had a school near, probably they would send more girls to school because it is near home, and they don't have to go very far, because the parents are also very scared of their girls going very far.
For many students, a new building means the solidity of an education. And as they break into the new structure, it is hoped lessons learned within these walls will allow them a future. Chamgono, CGTN.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program. More than 30,000 people have been stranded for weeks without shelter in the northwestern part of the DRC. And transport for the people, by the people. We take a look at Ghana's Trotro.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
A third of public hospital doctors in Zimbabwe face dismissal as disciplinary action over an illegal strike continues. More than 270 doctors have already been fired for being absent from work without reasonable cause. In total, 516 doctors are facing the charges. CGTN's Farai Mwakutuya is in Harare with more.
The Health Services Board has begun the disciplinary hearings against the doctors who ignored a Labour court ruling to return to work after it deemed their strike illegal. Junior doctors are demanding higher pay, claiming current wages, which are below $100 per month, are inadequate for them to report for duty. They want to be paid the equivalent of $1,500. They remain resolute in the face of the government's decision to terminate their employment.
Doesn't address the current impasse between the employer and the employees. It doesn't capacitate the doctors to come to work. It doesn't improve our healthcare system, which we are fighting for. A healthcare system which actually helps our patients at large.
This is where the brunt of this over 2-month-long strike is being felt. Patients are being turned away from this hospital because inside those wards, the small number of doctors that are still working can only attend to the most serious emergency cases. Stranded patients and relatives say the doctors should be given what they are asking for. But the government, facing pressing financial commitments, including drought relief, says it can't afford to meet the demands and had, before embarking on the dismissals, implored the doctors to return to work while continuing negotiations. The doctors argue doing so would compromise their patients' safety.
We have become a danger to our patients in the sense that we are not in the rightful state of mind to actually be attending to our patients due to financial constraints. Yes, this is a fight for our patients because we believe by the Declaration of Geneva, which we recite, we need to put the doctors' well-being first before you even touch a patient.
Other civil servants, including teachers and nurses, have also engaged in go-slows to protest the erosion of their incomes. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
And now to floods in the Democratic Republic of Congo. More than 30,000 people have been stranded for weeks without shelter in Zongo area. Flood waters have not receded in the northwestern part of the country. CGTN's Tulisha Balala has the story.
The river Ubangi burst its banks 3 weeks ago. This was what caused the initial flooding. But repeated rains have made the water level to rise.
There are many women with children who are not receiving assistance from hospitals. There have been cases of people falling ill. There are even women giving birth here. But as there is no shelter, we can't house them.
Some homes have collapsed in the city. The mayor of Zongo says around 36,000 people are now homeless and in desperate need of medicine, mosquito nets and food.
It has been 3.5 weeks now that we are under the mango trees, as you can see, with women, mothers, with no shelter, no covers, and there is no clean water to drink.
Humanitarian coordinators in the area have been waiting for help from government agencies for over 19 days. They are calling for emergency assistance. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
In Ghana, commercial buses known as Trotro are mainly used for the transportation of people and goods. They have been running in the country for many decades. Despite the introduction of advanced urban transport by the government, such as the bus rapid transport system in 2016, Trotro remained the most preferred means of commuting. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rufai took a ride in a Trotro in Accra and tells us why they still remain popular among Ghanaians.
This is a typical station of commercial buses in Accra. These vehicles are called Trotro, and they travel every stretch of Ghana's roads.
It's very interesting getting to know a lot of people sit with, because I take the car almost every day to school.
The word Trotro comes from the Ghanaian dialect, Ga. It means 3 pence, the standard fare for a ride during colonial British rule. Now, it costs 20 cents for a 1 kilometer trip.
It's always better to keep some change handy to pay for your journey when you pick a Trotro. Sometimes drivers may not be able to break big notes and change may be hard to come by.
Trotro is a preferred means of transport because it's cheaper than other modes of transport and it's also far more accessible as it covers more routes. But there have been questions about its safety record. Data from the Motor Traffic and Transport Department shows that commercial vehicles, mostly Trotro, involved in accidents killed over 300 people and injured nearly 2,000 in the first quarter of 2019. Trotros are stripped out delivery vans and fitted with metal frames so that they can seat up to 15 passengers. This is usually done by uncertified mechanics. Safety experts say that poses safety risks to passengers.
The people who are going to fabricate and install these seats in these vehicles must be certified so that they know what sort of material they are using, how they are positioning the material, so that in the event of a collision, at least we can guarantee a certain level of survival.
The government says it is collaborating with the private road transport union to ensure all vehicles used for commercial purposes are fitted by certified mechanics. It has also introduced a bus rapid transport system for commercial purposes. But many Ghanaians still prefer to use the trotros as they have yet to adjust to the operations of the new bus rapid transport system, which can only be accessed at stations. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
A press conference has been held to introduce the achievements of the second China International Import Expo. The 6-day event just closed in Shanghai.
A total of 181 countries, regions, and international organizations participated at this year's Expo. More than 3,800 enterprises joined in the exhibition, and there were over 500,000 domestic and foreign professional visitors.
Sun said that nearly 400 new products, technologies or services were launched globally or in the Chinese mainland, and the cumulative intention of deals reached nearly $71 billion during the Expo. The officials also highlighted the outcomes of each forum held during the Expo under the theme of a shared future, especially the opportunities and challenges brought by the new technologies, such as artificial intelligence. Sun also added that there are over 230 enterprises that have signed to attend the next Expo. For more on this now, I'm joined by CGTN's Uche Okoronkwo. She's in Shanghai. Uche, so what role did this year's Expo play in boosting global trade?
Well, thank you, Beatrice. But just looking at those numbers that you just mentioned of those attending this year's Expo, and of course the amount of deals that we saw made, it is clear how important this Expo has become to global trade. Now, just to note, about 126 foreign government delegations did attend the conference as well. Now, globalization, that was a core theme at this year's Expo. On the sidelines of the event, we saw WTO Director General Robert Azevedo. He pointed to the importance of predictability of world economic performance at this year's CIIE, given, of course, the current trade policy uncertainty and the drag that it has been on global growth. So interesting to note that despite the ongoing trade dispute, Beatrice, with the U.S., almost 200 of the firms here were American. In fact, more U.S. firms showed up than any other country, and that's certainly a sign that they were not influenced by the ongoing trade dispute. What we did hear a lot this year is a lot of talk about how CIIE presents a new approach to global trade, of course, in the role that it has played in bringing all these companies and countries on one platform, Beatrice.
So what are some of the interesting deals made at this year's event?
Well, first and foremost, Beatrice, the Expo saw over 500,000 buyers from across China coming to look for deals at the Expo. Now, of course, French products won pretty big this year. As you know, French President Emmanuel Macron was present at the opening of the Expo. Now, the two countries, China and France, signed a number of deals, one of them a $15 billion deal, which, of course, will facilitate the movement of French poultry, French beef, and French pork from France to China. This also involved China now approving poultry exports from France. We also saw a number of businesses from several nations able to get their products into the newly established free trade zone in southeast China's Hainan province. Also, Jiangsu province, which is a major manufacturing hub here, was particularly popular. About 30,000 companies from the province came to the Expo, of course, looking to buy products. The province saw over 1,200 deals signed so far, with companies like Nestle, a number of Japanese firms, amongst others, looking to set up in that province. Over $70 billion in deals made here, Beatrice. The list is quite long. Of course, registration for next year's event has already kicked off, and just over 200 companies have already signed up to attend. So quite a successful event, Beatrice.
All right, Uche Okoronkwo joining us there from Shanghai. Thank you. We're going to take a short break now, but still ahead on the program. Zimbabwe bans livestock imports from South Africa to prevent the spread of foot and mouth disease. And around 200 Chinese companies take part in the Lagos International Fair.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Zimbabwe has banned livestock imports from neighboring South Africa to prevent the spread of foot and mouth disease, which was reported at a farm in the Limpopo province. CGTN's Farai Mwakutuya filed this report from Harare.
The Department of Veterinary Services issued a statement Friday suspending the importation of live cattle, goats, sheep and pigs from neighboring South Africa. It's taken the precautionary measure to prevent the spread of the highly contagious foot and mouth disease. It says it's in the process of identifying the virus strain, extent of the outbreak and possible origin, as well as locations to which the disease might have spread. This is the second time this year that livestock imports from South Africa have been suspended. In January, Zimbabwe, along with Eswatini and Botswana, took similar measures to protect their herds from foot and mouth. Zimbabwe's livestock is already at threat from diseases owing to a shortage of vaccines because of a long-running foreign currency shortage, as well as the drought, which has already claimed thousands of beasts in the country's hardest-hit regions. Farai Mwakutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
About 200 Chinese companies are taking part in the Lagos International Trade Fair. Companies and traders from across the continent have also gathered for the C10-day trade fair, which is being organized by the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. CGTN's Deji Badmus has more.
Around 3,500 exhibitors are taking part in this trade fair, which is considered the biggest trade event not just in Nigeria, but in the West African sub-region. Big, small, local and international firms are all here to exhibit their products and strike business deals. Among those making a big show in here were Chinese companies. 200 of them are taking part in the fair. It's the largest representation from a single country.
China is more open and providing wider access to the international market. We welcome the international companies to go to China. I'm very happy to say that China's economy is also doing very well. In the first 3 quarters of this year, China's GDP grows at a speed of 6.2%. Comparatively speaking, vertically, it's slower than China's past performance. But horizontally, we are very happy to see that China is still one of the fastest growing economy in the world.
Last year, only 45 Chinese companies took part in the fair. The jump in the number is partly attributed to the Belt and Road Initiative, which Nigeria signed up to in April this year. And as part of activities marking the fair, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry signed a memorandum of understanding with the China Shandong Export Commodities to foster bilateral trade relations between both countries.
We want to encourage value addition in our interrelationship. We want the Chinese companies to come and establish here, do some value addition before products are taken out of our country. We also believe that the wrong perception of saying that the Chinese product is of inferior quality should be addressed. We should make sure that we don't allow companies to send out very inferior quality to Nigeria. The way we can do it, we have to do it, because this is giving a very wrong image to the Chinese product in Nigeria.
The trade fair coincides with the China International Import Expo going on in Shanghai. Like their Chinese counterparts here, a number of Nigerian firms are also taking part in the Expo in China. It's a kind of cooperation and mutual trade relations envisaged in the BRI, and it's no doubt beginning to work for both countries. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
The Tunisian government, Tunisia's leading bank BIAT, and the Embassy of China in Tunisia are linking up to finance and support startups and entrepreneurs in innovation and technology. CGTN's Adnan Chauchi reports.
The Chinese ambassador to Tunisia noted that the donation will help young entrepreneurs achieve their goal of starting successful businesses and enterprises based on innovation and technology.
This donation to young Tunisian talents and those with startups will help them innovate. The future of Tunisia depends on these young talents who can realize their dreams of being the entrepreneurs of the future and making valuable scientific research.
BIAT Lab's founder and chairman is a former Minister of Technology. The Investors' Day initiative is co-founded by BIAT, a Tunisian bank that supports innovation in the North African country.
We're proud of the collaboration with the Embassy of the People's Republic of China. Its financial support of around $28,000 to young entrepreneurs is a boost to the sector of innovation and job creation.
Food for Future is one of the most successful startups in Tunisia. It aims to revolutionize the sector of dietary supplements in Africa.
Food for Future
makes machines and equipment that create spirulina, which is an organism with high nutritive value that grows in both fresh and salt water. The support from BIAT Labs and the Chinese Embassy is precious.
BIAT Labs has financed 23 startups since the launch of the project. Now the businesses are worth around $10.5 million.
The Chinese ambassador to Tunisia vowed to provide more technical and financial assistance to local startups and to encourage the spirit of entrepreneurship in the North African state. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
A young Ugandan entrepreneur is making a mosquito repellent soap to fight malaria. A recent survey by Uganda's health ministry shows that malarial cases are up by 40%. John Nalubenga is now promoting the use of mosquito repellents to bring down this figure. Here's CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga.
For Joan Nalubenga, the fight against malaria is personal. A survivor of the deadly disease at the tender age of 6, Joan is preparing a potential life-saving solution.
When I grew up and I tried to search about the malaria cases because I was interested due to the trauma that it had caused me when I was little, I found out that more than 10,500 Ugandans die from malaria every single year, and mostly are the children below the age of 5. So I tried to talk to different people in the communities to try and understand what they're doing about malaria, and I discovered that still, for decades, we've all been using only mosquito nets, yet there are repellents, other interventions on the market which are not accessible to the people that are mostly actually affected by malaria.
The repellent is made of essential oils extracted from herbs. They include lemongrass, which produces a scent that mosquitoes hate. Joan says it is effective for 5 to 6 hours after bath.
We want people to use it from maybe 5 or 4 until maybe 10 when they go to bed, because this is the time, the gap when they are not protected. That's the gap that we want to fill as Uganics for the people in the communities.
On average, Joan produces about 3,000 mosquito repellent soap every week. She says this product is helping reduce on malaria cases in this community. The recent prolonged rains have provided breeding grounds for mosquitoes that transmit the disease from one person to another. Uganda's health ministry is now upbeat about this initiative.
If you really get a product that is natural, purely safe, but it's going to intervene or contribute to elimination of malaria, to me that's a great success.
And the feedback from the community has been positive.
The soap is protecting us. My children no longer fall sick, as was the case in the past.
Joanne's repellent soap costs $4 for the high-end market, but to make it affordable to the low-income earners, she sells it at a subsidized price of 68 cents. Joanne hopes that this will be an affordable solution to keep the killer disease at bay. Hilary Isiga, CGTN, Mpigi, Central Uganda.
In Tunisia, women and girls battling cancer have dazzled dozens on the catwalk in Tunis. The cancer patients wore bright clothes and fitted garments in an event organized to battle misconceptions about the illness. Tulisha Balala has more on that story.
These are cancer patients in Tunis. The women and girls are showcasing their tailor-made outfits on the catwalk. The event is to raise awareness about breast cancer.
We all know that women who undergo chemotherapy are tired. They lose their hair and their eyes are tired because of the side effects. So we want to get them out of that phase. We wanted to have a special day just for them, where everyone can watch them and see how beautiful they are.
I never thought that one day I will be in that position. I found out about my illness by chance. I felt that I have a nodule. I went to the doctor and then it all felt like a dream. From the day I found out about the illness until the day I had the surgery, it was all 10 days. My breast was removed in 10 days. Afterwards, we did chemotherapy, radiotherapy. It was hard, but it is fine.
Organizers also aim to boost confidence and raise the morale of cancer patients.
When I was sick, I wanted to go out and be beautiful and to be happy with myself. I wanted to go to people and tell them that I'm sick and for everybody to know about it. I want to send a positive message. I want people to change how they see cancer because it's not fatal if we know how to deal with it and how to recover.
The Tunisian Health Ministry lists cancer as the second major cause of death in the country. The disease kills around 10,000 people annually. 1,500 women get diagnosed with breast cancer each year. Tulisha Balala, CGTN.
And we still have more news for you here on the program. Here's what's ahead. We'll look at how South Africa is preserving indigenous languages through children's books.
Join us in Global Business and see Africa through our eyes. The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Now, it's rare to find books for children written in an African language, especially in South Africa, where less than 20% of the population reads for enjoyment, and that makes publishing an expensive exercise. But one young publisher is determined to change this and preserve South Africa's languages. CGTN Sumitra Naidu has more.
Dimakhatso Mkhudi started Peo Literature with the aim of ensuring young children learn their family language. She publishes bright, colourful and glossy books for little children.
The level of literacy in the country right now, children in primary school, foundation phase, and I'm talking about like from 8-year-olds to 12, people who should be able to read at this point in time, 60% of those kids are not able to read. And if they can read, they are not reading with understanding, especially in our African languages, because there weren't too many books written in African languages, especially to read for leisure. Even now, you still find those kind of challenges because you have young people having kids. So for them, sitting and reading for their children, it's not a priority. The priority is for them to make sure that the child has eaten, the child goes to school, the teachers will teach them at school, and it's not enough.
Peo Literature publishes the books in 10 of South Africa's official languages, appealing to more of the population.
As a parent, we have a role to play to parent our kids. And if we want literate children, it is our responsibility to make sure that our children are literate and they can read. I really worry about the black child because when you get to a certain point in life, like varsity, the challenges that you face there, it's things that could have been prevented should things have been taken care of when you were younger. So if we don't build our children to be confident in when it comes to literature space, we are setting them up for failure in future. For me, language is who we are. If we take away the language, we have taken away our core.
Mkhudi is determined, though, to get South Africans reading. She wants children to embrace their culture and develop a love for books, especially in their own language. Reading is an important step in early childhood development. Sumitra Nadu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Once upon a time. The phrase that lets us know an epic story is just about to start. Well, in Côte d'Ivoire, 14 storytellers from around the world are showing off their chops. They're all from French-speaking countries. Each storyteller starts off their tale with the iconic phrase. Experts also shared their skills with students at the National Institute of Arts and Cultural Action. Storytelling is a long-held tradition on the continent, and many cultures keep their history preserved in the guardianship of skilled orators. Let's take a listen and see which tales resonate with the audiences.
From what I heard today, I understand the importance of telling stories and passing them on from generation to generation. Younger generations can learn a lot about their history through stories.
We can say that there is an audience for storytelling Ivory Coast. We also organize experience with the Arts Institute to learn from experienced storytellers. We've gathered professional storytellers here in our country. It was great from them to share their experiences with young aspiring storytellers.
And your sports news coming up next. Here's what's ahead. The Under-23 Africa Cup of Nations gets underway in Cairo as 8 African teams chase a 2020 Olympic ticket.